Hi everybody, I'm Simon Cooper from the Cooper Strip Club, and today is our first Cooper's Strip Club Lockdown Live.
Hello.
Yeah, I got that right on time. We're actually supposed to be at Taupo, at the Taupo Home and Garden Show, but events have conspired against us and we are not. So we would have been tonight going to the Lotus Thai restaurant with everybody, as we do every year, but again we're not. So we didn't want to let you down and have you not see the roadshow, so we thought we'd do it inside our factory. So we commandeered our smoker room, much to everyone's delight, and put together what you may have seen partially if you were at Taupo.
Nobody smokes.
No one smokes. No, they don't. It's an old phrase. Yeah. So what we've got here is our workstation. This is some examples. You'd wander along through the show and you'd, what's this all about? And so what Cooper's is about is stripping any paint or varnish where you don't have to sand. And if you don't sand, you don't create dust. And if you don't create dust, you don't get lead poisoning. Yay. So we're going to talk a little about lead today. And what we're wanting to do when we do these is let us know what you want to see it on. You may have a project that you're thinking about doing and are all doing and struggling, and you want to get our thoughts and opinions and all that sort of stuff.
We've got lots of stuff here, so just let us know and we'll rummage around and see what we can find.
Yeah, we've got 40 odd years of stuff hanging around, lots of stuff to show you on. So we're going to be doing it this way. And if you're interested in our products at the end of all this, you are most welcome to purchase online. We're authorised to do online sales.
We're open.
Yeah, we're not closed, we're open.
What are you doing here? You're spraying what?
Okay, well this is the weatherboard one here. You can see where I've stripped this when I was at the Dargaville field days recently. I got that far. And this is really thick, gnarly lead paint, so that's going to take a while to work through. It's
interesting, Simon, just to pause on that one, that grey coat on that top is that horrible textured stuff that they used a few decades back. That
Glamour-Tex stuff.
That rough textured, clean.
Horrible. So this is part of an old door I broke down. I think it's a carry door. We'll find out more later, with all sorts of stuff on there. Here's architrave, colonial architrave. When I spray, I always put light coats on and I always move my hand as I go. This is a bit of cedar weatherboard with some sort of finish on, and as the stripper hits, it pretty instantly absorbs in. So we just let it do its thing.
Which is why we make it thin, isn't it? So that it can actually go through rather than me then sitting on the top.
Yes, we won't show you, but through that door is where it's made. And so what we do also say is keep the surface wet with stripper as it goes. So that there just drunk it up and then it's gone. So we've got anyone watching yet, Dory?
We have. No questions yet. Looking forward to questions, guys. Why is he spraying it more than once?
Even fake questions are fine.
Yeah.
A bit of wine do we like, whatever. What we often do also at the shows, while that has another moment, is we have this book. This is a book called A Book of Nice Words, and many people come past us at the show and they say, oh, I did our house with your stuff, it was great, it was wonderful, you saved our life, all those sorts of things. And so we got to a point where we said, we need people to write these things down. So we got this book and said, here you go, write it down. And this is just full of stuff.
We can't see any of it.
No, you can't see any of it. So
still can't.
Anyway, I got one to share. I'll share one each time. I can do that. Just want to say what an amazing result we got from using this awesome product. I wouldn't have found another one, would I? Glad to be a member of the Strip Club and passing on the good news to my friends. That's from Annette. So that's real cool. We can't do that because we're not at shows at the moment. We're not expecting anyone to wander by at the moment. So what we need is online versions of those, please. If you had a result you want to share. And we got one this morning. I was checking Facebook. And Tracy said, I used Coopers on my doors in this built-in dresser. It's the best stripper I've ever used, and you really don't need to sand. It also doesn't burn like some strippers I've used in the past. I love this stuff. So thanks, Tracy. That's all cool. We will.
And she gave us pictures.
She did. So yeah. So as I said, part of the theme today is lead. Right now, around New Zealand and elsewhere around the world, people have nowhere to go. They're inside and they're looking at projects that they've been meaning to do for a long, long time. We call it the round to it stripper, and they've now got the time they never had, and they're getting out the sandpaper. And what they may not know is that the very good chance they're actually poisoning the household. And a lot of people go, oh, lead can't be that bad. So we're actually looking up some stuff on lead, and I'll read that out in a moment. So I'll come back to that because I'm ready to do some stuff here. So what we do on this architrave here, I'm just going to give that a brush. This is a very fine copper brush. Now this is not lead paint, it's enamel paint on top of shellac. A lot of people they say, oh, I've had my house tested and I haven't got lead. And I actually don't really care that much about tests or non-tests. What we're against is dust, because even acrylic isn't the smartest thing to inhale. So we like it where if you can turn the paint into a paste or a liquid or wet, you're not creating dust, and then you haven't got those issues. So what I've done is I've brushed off the enamel paint. The three sort of paints we come up with or come across the most is like acrylic, which goes like pizza cheese, and then there's enamel paint, the oil-based paints which are flaky, and then the lead paint doesn't do really anything. It's not even working. It goes like a paste. So I've taken off the flaky stuff because when it's all big and flaky, putting more stripper on top of a big flaky surface is just wasting product. So we get rid of what we can, slap on some more stripper. Then over here where we've got the weatherboard, the cedar weatherboard with whatever coating that stuff is, again the brushes are ideal for that. This is very weathered weatherboard. As cedar gets older, it gets quite corrugated. It has a very hard and a very soft grain, and so you can't really, if you were to sand it, you'd be open cast mining the time you got everything out. So then we zap on some more strip.
Somebody may be thinking with horror about using a brush over such a vast surface. How would you respond to that?
How would I respond to that? Let me think. Hang on, I'll just check here first. That grey stuff on top is the acrylic. I'll come back to the brush. I won't forget. This is a long-handled tungsten blade. I'm not expecting to get through the whole lot in the first zap there. It's just that acrylic paint, this stuff here, is quite rubbery and it tends to hold stripper, so we like to get rid of it so we get access on from there. Same thing. Yeah, probably leave that one there a bit longer, a little bit more stripper.
See how some paints blister and some paints just go soft.
You're like a chef. You've got these different things. They're all cooking at different speeds, and you've got to assess what the next step is. So this one, obviously the colour change is extreme. So again, just keeping it wet. The stripper itself is pH neutral, and why that's important is it's not going to upset the timber. It's not going to bleach it or burn it or any of those sorts of things. It's also a lot more mild on you, even though I'm not touching it. Okay, back to the
Hi,
question.
Angie.
Who's this?
Angie.
Hello. From Whangarei, Angie.
Honey.
Angie, yes, hello. I see you've moved to Auckland. Okay, you don't use it like that unless you're going up a groove. If you're on a flat surface, turn it sideways So now you've got all 2.5 inches of it in action. And I talk about stiletto shoes versus flat soles, where when you've got a stiletto, all the weight gets transferred into one point. Now, if you get a big brush and you try and push it onto a surface to get the bristles into where you want them, you've got to push really, really hard to get a result. Where I can effectively, with my brush, zip over that surface pretty fast. I won't become exhausted like I would if I was hanging onto a big brush.
And using your shoulders and rotor cuffs and things.
Yeah, I mean, a huge amount of our strippers are the girls, of course, and
What do I do with them?
I can't edit that out. And
Actually, seriously, a lot of women do this. They just get it done, and they get it done fast. They read the instructions. That helps.
yes. Now, I'm at this point here. So I prefer, we've tried big brushes, all sorts of brushes. These brushes, when you use them correctly, they're fast. Now, there's one step of finishing, and so we take advantage of it. We go to the blue one. So I've done part one, taking off what was on. Then I put more stripper on again, which took off what was in. And then we got ourselves a clean brush, and we've got the blue one. The blue one is our flusher, and it's designed to rinse the surface clean.
Nothing to neutralise.
No. If you do this, you don't have to sand, because everything, we're actually reusing the original surface.
It's common for people to ask us, well, why not just hose it off now? Why would we say no to
If
that?
you use water, we basically freeze the finish. Any residues that are there get sort of frozen on, and then you've got to like sand them off. And also, if you were hosing, that runoff's going to get into the environment, and you've got whatever the you're taking off, especially if it's lead paint. People sort of sometimes water blast off lead paint, and they're putting lead straight into the drain, which isn't the best thing to do. That piece there now is finished. That is ready for a finish.
I want to get close, but when I do, I get poor connection, so it's a bit dodgy.
Okay. Now, I'll go back over to our screen here.
Yeah, I can't get any closer.
We'll be working on bridges and things like that for our next live stream to make. We've got some very clever sons who are in lockdown with us, and we'll be getting, they're also in the business with us. The steel wool I'm using is it's a European wool. It's very, very sharp. So on our guide we say scrub with the appropriate scrubbing material, which sometimes can be a little ambiguous, but I wouldn't use steel wool here because this is an exterior surface and we don't use steel wool outside. Where this is an interior, I could trade where I can, but the brushes are going to work on that corrugation better anyway. Now, let's have a look at. So we hear that crunch, that's hard lead, and so we're just going to slide over the top of it. We're not interested in trying to chop away through it.
So we're not interested either in taking off a layer at a time. It's really if it's blistering too much or there's a big amount of thickness there.
You just, because it's thin and you're doing multiple light coats, you're basically deciding whether do I put more on. Yeah. So that's done, that there's softening, that one there's pretty much done, and that one's a little bit of a soften. From where you are,
I can't go in there.
No, that's all right. In my little display here, this wall here is pretty cool. This time of the year, a lot of people are doing weatherboards, and this is a 1 square metre sample that we did, and this is on video. You can see this on our website, and this has got creosote, lead, enamel and acrylic all on the one, and it just worked its way through them all. A lot of people ask us, do you really have to take it back to the raw? Is getting it part way fine? And the reality is, if you're going to go to all the trouble of getting scaffolds and doing all the things you've got to do, take it right back, because you've got then a clean, dry, absorbent surface. So I'll just show you this here. Can you see that, Dory?
Yes.
That is showing you an absorbent surface. And if you want new paint to succeed, you really do want to create an absorbent surface. So, as the new primers go on, they soak in deep, they connect from within the wood rather than sticking on top, and then you build it up from there out. So many people, every week, if we were in Taupo this weekend, there would be someone come up and tell us about their horror story of having had their house painted professionally a couple of years before, or done it themselves, and they will find that it bubbles off. And a lot of the reason is that the acrylic paints today are so expansive and contractive when they move that they drag everything behind it off with it. And so this way it can't fail, because the primers soak in deep and then everything else attaches on top. Our system also is very environmentally friendly. People think, oh, well, chemicals can't be, but it's about whether it gets into the environment. And our system is completely encapsulated. We've got all these plastics that it all drops into and it all wraps up. There's nothing being washed down the drains or anything like that. And as we said earlier, we're all about no sanding. And the main reason for the no sanding is, like, if you pan slightly to the right, Dory, you'll see that big window. That window was sanded when it was originally made. The joiner sanded it, and that sanding is still there. And when we stripped that, there was no sanding done by us. So it was a complete no sanding required, so no sanding, no dust, no lead poisoning. And as I said earlier, when you're at home in lockdown and the kids aren't at school because they can't go to school, and the partners are not at work because working from home, or her or whatever, the person doing the restoring is doing it while everyone's around. And if you do sanding, then guess what? You may vacuum and sweep up, but you're not going to get it all. It's only fooling yourself if you think you're going to get all that dust away. For this, you actually will have nothing left.
Or going into the plants and eating those plants, and
Pets and things.
Animals walk in it, kids run through it, neighbours who do it, and it's going into your chickens that you're eating.
Yes. So this bottom layer is lead, and that's a crunch, so that's going to need a little bit more time to get through. That noise too. So we just give it this time to do its job. Other bits that I got lurking, I can show you. Oh, I know what I'm going to do. Yeah, I was going to read you a bit of lead stuff. We were just going through all the lead stuff recently, and a lot of people don't realise that lead is a cumulative toxicant, whatever that is, that affects multiple body systems and is particularly harmful to young children. This is from the World Health Organization. Lead in the body is distributed to the brain, the liver, the kidney, and the bones. It is stored in the teeth and bones, where it accumulates over time. It doesn't go away. There is almost no function in the human body which is not affected by lead toxicity. Focus is also on toxic effects of lead on the renal, reproductive, and nervous system. Lead in bone is released into blood during pregnancy and becomes a source of exposure to developing fetus. There is no level of exposure to lead that is known to be without harmful effects, but lead exposure is preventable if you think about it before you touch it. And so big focus of Cooper's. Originally when we started, it was all about, 40 odd years ago, it was about being easy, making it quick and fast. But then over time we became more and more focused on what the effects of lead are. And especially as we started having a few kids of our own, you start getting interested in all this sort of thing. And we realised that, without realising it, we'd actually created a system of stripping that was great at avoiding getting lead into you. Yeah. Now I did have another piece of wood hanging around, so you just have a look at the display, Dory.
This particular piece on the right, it could be the best part of a half an hour, 20-minute, half an hour soak, whereas a piece of varnish would be almost spray and wipe by comparison. But it's fast, because you wouldn't be doing a small patch like this.
So here's another bit of seed of a different type of weatherboard, different sort of finish, sorry. This one here, I think, is like an enamel paint on top of the varnish. So again, you can see this one here, it's just sucked straight in. There's no dally time like this one's staying wet. It takes a little bit longer to absorb in. Where the, I think this is like an oil-based stain.
And these finishes have literally been cooked, haven't they, by the sun?
Yep, especially these dark ones on the exterior weatherboards. Okay, a couple of things too pop into my brain is what can you use Coopers on? You can use this on furniture, so your antique pieces. We're actually working on a video at the moment that we did recently with this old antique piano, which will be quite fun to have a look at. Hopefully be out within about the week. These lights are making me drip. And so any furniture, carved furniture, doesn't matter. Again, the sanding on furniture is usually pretty high quality, so they actually come out really well. Our website, which I haven't mentioned yet, but our website, which is coopersstripclub.com. It's coopersstripclub.com. There's heaps and heaps and heaps of stuff in there, videos galore, pictures, all sorts of things, methods. You can, if you decide you want to get some of this stuff, we do freight worldwide. Some parts of the world are taking a little bit longer to get to at the moment, but they're still getting there at the moment. The other things that this works on is your joinery. So, you know, here's a window, doors. Doors and windows are a real famous Coopers thing. Windows are amazing, getting into all the nooks and crannies. You can imagine the time it would take to sand a thing like that. It takes forever with Coopers. It still takes time, but it of what sanding would be.
No sanding.
And if someone was sanding a thing like this, they sand all these big flat bits and they can't get into all the nooks and crannies. So this is one of the big things. Also, it works on things like floors, and things like that, and the glues come away really, really easily. What other things inside the house? Beams and all sorts, kitchens, bathroom cabinets, all those sort of things. It'll work on your car. So many people have a project car sitting in the shed waiting. In fact, this is quite a good time for doing a project car.
Had a question from Lanny. He's saying, can you still distribute through New Zealand? I've run out and halfway through stripping my second boat.
Absolutely, yes. We are authorised to supply online or by phone. You can call us on 0800 678 678 and we can chat to you and have it whisked off to you. The couriers are all good with us.
Talking about boats, aluminium boats, fine on metal, anti-foul on boats, and the old varnish, bright work. The same solution works on it all.
I mean, anti-foul is amazing. I didn't know what the stuff was, being very landlocked in the middle of New Zealand. But when we first saw it used, it was quite mind-blowing. And also it's good in the fact there is no sanding, so the in the marine people, if you've got a boat and it's on the water still, there's no sanding putting dust into the environment, that sort of stuff. Now, what else is it? So yes, answer to that. And also online, we have an online shop, so you can order it on there, and that's all easy peasy. Now, before I go into the other things you can use it on, we'll just keep showing you here. Now this blade, we call it a 4-edge blade because it's got 4 edges. This blade has got a curved edge, so it doesn't gouge in. I'm just using it softly.
Modern paints are fast.
So this one was some rail on a door. I think it was a horizontal rail on an old door I broke up.
Lanny was just confirming that he has used Coopers on the boat 2-pack.
Cool. Whereabouts is Lanny from?
I know it's a 22-foot boat, but I don't know quite where he is. You have to tell us, Lanny. Angie's asked a question. She said, will it work on painted mason blocks?
Masonry blocks, yes. Yep. Concrete and brick, etc. is a little bit more quirky because there are these like craters all through it, and the craters get filled up with the paint. So you take all the bulk off like I'm doing just now. Imagine that's the brick or the concrete. So the blade slides over the top. As I said, it's actually curved, so it won't rip into the stone.
We have to see if we've got some. I'm sure I saw some concretey mason blocks, if we've still got them.
I'll have a little fossil.
For next time.
And Angie, if you can send us a picture of the sort you're looking at doing, that'll help heaps.
This is fine on the grouting as well.
So let's hope the Hamilton Home Show's on this year. So, and you'll know why. Now, so what happens is when you take off the top stuff on top of stone, like on concrete, and you put more stripper on, you leave it for a while, and this is when the little copper bristles get into those parts. You're doing little circles in it, and it all comes away, but it might need 10 minutes of soaking till those bits all soften up. Remember, we did a home demo years ago to a guy that was taking the paint out of all the grout lines on his. He was polishing the concrete wall and wanted it all out of the grout lines first. Okay, so quickly on the other part, so I've said it does furniture and it does cars and interior joinery. So we're doing lots of cars, more and more all the time. Some real cool ones. We've done E-Type Jags, Aston Martins, you name it, we've done it. But amazing the cars that lurk around.
No warpage.
No, because it's cold. There's no dust and all that stuff, but there's no warpage of the metal, so that's ideal.
So any kind of metal.
Now it's also, as we said, good on marine, and exterior is a big thing. People often think because this does furniture that how could you ever do a weatherboard when you've been doing furniture? Well, this is ideal on exterior projects, windows, doors, weatherboards, all that sort of thing. And again, we often get questioned on our triggers. Like we have to have great big spray gun systems, of course, if you're doing exterior. But I mean, if you've got a spray gun that puts too much pressure through, it atomizes too much and it just floats around like fly spray. You need a pressure system that leaves it in droplet form like these triggers do. And the reality is, if you spray on too many square meters at a time, you actually can't physically work with it, so you waste product. So you're better to do, say, a square meter of weatherboard, like the size at the back, and deal with that. You can even work on 2 patches at a time when you're working backwards and forwards. But if you're actually wasting product because it's you're just not getting to it in time, then why waste product?
Interesting thing, Simon, with these 2 ones on the left and the right, the extreme ones, they're not blistering. So how does somebody tell whether it's ready or not?
Good question. It's all just because if it's not blistering, remember it's probably lead. Now the sound is nearly perfect. It's gone from that metallic steel sound, it's gone to a mushy sound, and it's getting this tastiness to it, and so it's not quite there. A lot of people would say, "Yep, no, we'll get into it from that point."
Yeah, because painters put lead oxide into the enamel paint back then, and some painters put more in than others. And where the paint's been in the sun, it's hard as a nail.
Yeah, well, in Palmerston North,
or Manawatu, wasn't it really?
Yeah, of all of New Zealand, Manawatu seems to be the lead central. It's like they would put an extra bucket in them. When they're mixing up a drum, they chuck some more lead in there because
more must have been better.
Yeah, whenever we do home demos in the Manawatu, they always take an extra half an hour to soften through. And if it's taking us half an hour to soften through, I mean, normal stripper just won't even work.
It'll take days and days.
So
And then they have to sand.
I just go over to here.
Cedar House has always surprised me with how much muck there is that's soaked in, the sun's pushed in, and Coopers will pull it out.
These oil stains, the nature of them is to soak in, and this has been doing exactly that. And it just keeps coming in. If you had to sand that out, you would have to sand probably a couple of millimetres of timber off the surface to move it. Where the stripper, it's thin and it soaks, it's just drawing it out. Now, over to this railing here. This has had the extra stripper put on. This is part 2. So part 1, take off what's on the surface. Part 2, put the stripper on. It's been on there a little longer than we normally would leave it on for, but that doesn't matter. So we scrubbed the wet surface. That's wet with stripper with the steel wool. Remember our steel wool's the European long stranded stuff. And then we have our grit embedded pads, and this pad is a nylon-y type product with a pad with a grit in it. It's got a 180 grit abrasive in it, and we're not using it to sand, but it's like a pot scourer, but way better. So we go in with the flusher, and we spray, scrub. You notice like the stripper, you put it on and you leave it. With the flusher, you never do. You straight after you've done the stripping, you immediately go into the flushing. You don't leave it to the next day.
What the grit does, it gets into all the sanding fine scratches.
Yes, because when the sander's done its last stroke, it's left thousands of little strands there, little grooves, and that's what the grits get into. And then we wipe off. So spray scrub, spray wipe. Now, if we have a client that runs out of flusher, often, not always, but often it's because they didn't flush until the next day. So that is, they did all the stripping and then I'll do the flushing tomorrow. But by then the residues of paint have gone hard, and now you've got to use twice as much flusher and elbow grease to get the job done. So if you do it while everything's soft, way less product, way less effort, and that there is done. And again, smooth as. Now, this wet colour there, that colour there is the colour it would be with a new finish on.
The patina, aged, curry, remu, etc. are just amazing. That manuka tone is gone when you've sanded it.
When we wipe off things, normally we twist the rag slightly. We're trying to move it onto the rag. We're not trying to force it back in.
Hi, Ross. Thank you. He's saying some lovely words. He says, love your work. Most amazing product I've ever seen in my life. Nothing compares to how fast and easy it works.
You're all gushy. Thank you. People often ask us, it shows us is it any good, and I say we are very biased. So if there's anyone you know out there that's wanting to use up some of this time, just photographs, we can come back to you with our thoughts and opinions, or what videos would be useful.
We would love to show you on all sorts of quirky things. Let us know.
So, where's Ross from? What part of the country?
Euros.
Euros. Hello, Euros.
Not many Euros as we know out there.
Oh, I thought you said Ross. So Euros.
Yes.
It's only one Euros. So the real estate game's on a bit of a slowdown there. If anyone's in Auckland wants someone to sell their house sometime, Euros is your man.
So what you've done at this point is bulk removed, got rid of what's in the surface, and now you're rinsing off.
Yep.
The wet colour is a show and tell moment, isn't it? If you're deliberating on new colour, the wet colour is 0.0, not the dry colour.
Totally. So you do a bit of experimenting. When you're doing exterior, you're allowed to use brushes, you're allowed to use grip pad, just not steel wool, because steel wool can leave the odd strand of metal that will rust. And this wool was very non-crumbly, so why take the chance?
My
taking pictures of the...
My Something's gone wrong with my gimbal.
Technology. Okay, so that one there is again done. So that's
Can you bring it up a bit closer because I daren't move because I go to cover. Go higher, please. Thanks. So, yeah, I've got a very small band of coverage. That's lovely.
so that's that one there. And let's see what our other friends are doing over here. Yeah, so that's so you hear that. It's a nice mushy sound.
We like that longer handled model too. That gives you more leverage and less bounce. I'm talking about the
The blade.
tungsten blade.
Yeah, have a little look there. I'll just quickly grab. I think I've got.
Leaving me all alone.
That's
Higher, please.
the sort of the.
Can't see through your arm either.
Oh well,
Yeah.
I'll do it again. So that extra sort of 4 inches of length on the big one, it just uses so much less stress. What are you giggling at?
Carry on.
Don't mind out of the gutter. So I was listening to Lee Hart on his program he's going to do, and he's talking about his wife on the camera. Anyway, I thought I know that problem. She's actually very good. So, okay, so this one's wider, longer, and just has so much more advantage. Okay, now, so that one there we use the wool on. So it's wet with stripper. And then we get the flusher. And then we use the grip pad. Usually we always use the grip pad for the flushing. And we see that just gets little grits get into the little sandpaper grooves, sweeps it out just like a broom.
Not one drop of water in Coopers. We think water just messes up wood. And that's why it's so perfect on veneer.
So that there again is just like Manuka.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. And then over here we'll have a little so you see all that, that's the lead paint coming out. Put another little bit on there. You don't need to redo this, but I just want to be a little fussy.
You can see the blade marks from the thickness of planer.
I'll just show
All that
you
old character.
our wood finish.
This is good on rough sawn weatherboards as well.
So at this point, that one, they're ready for anyone's finisher. You can use whatever you want. If we're finishing something, we will finish it with moisturiser. This is the finish that we make. It's a blend of gum, oils and waxes, and it is designed to treat. Usually I don't have gloves on, so it'll slip out of my hand.
It's a food safe finish. It can go on child's toys or cots or eating surfaces.
Let's pour some other paint into it.
See how he's not caring about his brushwork? It's not going to form a skin.
It's called hideous brushwork the other day on one of the videos we were doing. Hideous brushwork
Hideous brushwork.
So it's designed to absorb into the wood, like leather care for wood. Get that crap off that pulled into it. That's better.
Leave it to absorb for a couple of days. Demand feed the thirsty bits like a window's thirsty. We think if you are finishing a window with a clear finish rather than painting it, this is fabulous because it's not going to lift off, it's not going to delaminate with moisture.
A lot of people, when they go to a demolition yard, or better a cycling centre more, they'll actually buy weatherboard and making furniture out of it. It's amazing the timbers. So often when we do demos for people doing their weatherboards, they'll take one look at the wood and, you know, the statement is often, you know, how could anyone paint this stuff? Which of course we have to repaint normally. But if you're making furniture out of it or something else, it's amazing what it can do. So, spray scrub, spray, wipe, and that's ready for repainting. And the cool thing is that when you put the new primer on, it soaks deep and it just goes in and locks off.
How long, Simon, before someone, if they were stripping
if you're painting,
your
I'd leave it till the next day probably. Usually within an hour it's fine, but usually you're ready for a beer by then. If you were moisturising, you can put the moisturiser on straight after the stripping and flushing is finished. Now if we pan to the right, I want to show you some products. You're still on there. There it is. That is the products in this cluster is a stripping pack. We have.
Sorry, I can't get any closer. I lose connection. We have to find a new place to do this.
So we've got 5 litres of stripper, 2.5 litres of flusher. We usually supply it as a 2-to-1. We've got 5 metres of our wool. We've got looks like a metre of grip pad. We've got 3 of the brushes, that little square blade. This neat tap to make easy pouring in the big tin, funnels for the smaller ones, bottles and triggers, and some spares. What I haven't done is talk more shortly. But we've got lots of sizes. If that's stripping pack B, that means there's a pack A, and there's lots of bigger ones as well. We go right through the alphabet.
What you don't use, you pour back into the tin. It keeps for a long time. Just store it.
Totally. Now,
nice and dry.
To give you, so you can go onto our website, again, cooperstripclub.com. It has a shop there. You've got heaps of sizes to look at, etc. And to give you an idea is, it's not what a litre costs, it's what a litre does. We are more expensive than gel somewhere, but our stuff goes, around about 10 tonnes the distance. So our jobs cost less. A metre of weatherboard in the background there, that used about a litre of stripper to do the 1 square metre, which is a lot of stripper for us, but that had unbelievable amounts of paint on it. But if you're doing a door, like that door to the right hand side of it, that is around about 1.5 litres for both sides. So 3/4 litre per side, thereabouts. It's not an exact, it's because the more paint you got, the more stripper needed. So you're looking at about 1.5 litres.
What about this window set here?
Yep, perfect. That slice that I stripped, that was about 3/4 litre as well. So if you're doing the outside of that window, that's 1.5 litres to do the whole thing. So our products, you get a lot. So if a person bought a pack C, which is a 10 litre pack, it's going to get a lot of stripping done. So you get about 6.6 windows done for the 10 litre for that pack C.
And you don't have to buy a pack each time when you want to top up. Just individual components.
Well, exactly.
There on the website to see.
That chap that was before with his boats, he may just buy the pieces he needs to get on with his project. You don't buy a pack each time. A pack's the right way to start, and then from there you just cherry pick. Now, products, triggers. Yes, I was going to talk about triggers. With the stripper, don't go puff, puff, puff. Because you get these dry patches, and also you're going to get more misting, and you're going to get running because it's all going in one place. What you do is you use probably about 1/3 to 1/2 of the trigger, and you're going puff, 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 puff. It's just way more gentle on you, so you can last longer. And and it doesn't run because it's in spread better. Also, our triggers do not have rubber O-rings in the end. Most triggers, if you buy them, take the tip off, you'll see a black rubber O-ring. They're all fine if you're not spraying a stripper. If you're putting a product through it, a rubber O-ring one will last about 5 seconds.
Is the moisturiser all gooey still? Have you buffed it?
Yes, this is this last part there. Now, you put the moisturiser on like you did before, and you usually wait for a couple of days, and already I can see patches here that have all adhered into it. And so what we do is we just slap more on as it needs it. It's not that you've got to leave it for 6 hours before you do that, you just do it as it needs it. After a couple of days, when you're happy that it's not absorbing anymore, simply buff the surface dry. And I'm using old mutton cloth, boiled mutton cloth. You can use old t-shirts, that sort of stuff, old sheets, towels. And you're wiping off the surplus and then burnishing all at the same time. And what we get is what we call a mellow glow. So we've got this beautiful silky surface, and bang, that's done. Now, will this stand up? So in the case of it being on a window, what can you expect? Like this window's been 15 years as a display. Gets rained on. We used to carry this on top of our ute on a roof rack. It used to get thrashed. The moisturiser has ingredients that will not mix with water, so effectively everything just beads off. And what happens is over time, when it's looking a bit thirsty, you slap some more on, you leave it on overnight, and then you buff it dry again. So, yeah. So that's us for today. If there's no more questions, if you want to set on something working, anything specific, we will find
please let us know.
Talk to your friends, all that, and we'll be back sometime within the next week. We'll be back to do another one of these. So we don't want all of them to be the same. So
nice.
We have a little saying before Doro pushes the off button, and that is, if you're looking for a stripper that really gets it off, Cooper's the stripper that gets it off every time. So you can.
Bye for now. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.